I stood in the kitchen, clutching the phone, my heart pounding. Mom had called, her voice surprisingly soft. "Thanksgiving is for adults only, Allie. No kids." I thought I'd misheard. Emma and Lucas, my two angels, were not welcome, and my brother Daniel's kids were invited. I'd dreamed of the smell of roasting turkey, the sound of warm family laughter. But now, everything was shattered. The pain surged like a knife to my heart. They were my children, my flesh and blood. Why had my parents pushed us away? I stood there, my hands gripping the edge of the kitchen counter, my breath caught in my throat. Mom had just finished speaking on the phone, her voice soft as a breeze, but each sentence stabbed deep into my heart. "You know, Allie, Emma, and Lucas. They're a little too energetic. Daniel's kids are better behaved, more polite." I blinked, trying to figure out if I'd heard correctly. Too energetic? My kids, Emma with her bright smile and Lucas with her sparkling eyes, were seen as burdens, while my brother Daniel's kids were hailed as little angels. I wanted to scream, but all I could manage was a whisper, "What do you mean?" There was a long pause. Then my mother sighed, as if I were the one causing trouble. "We just want a quiet dinner, Allie. If you leave the kids at home, it'll be easier." Easier for who? I felt the floor tilt, my head spinning. This wasn't just Thanksgiving. This was the injustice I'd tried to ignore for years. The way my parents had coddled Daniel. The way they'd come to his recitals but never to Emma's. The way his Christmas presents always cost a little more. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Mom, they're my kids. If they're not invited, I'm not going." The words came out harder than I expected. Mom paused, then said, her voice sharp, "Don't make a big deal out of it, Allie. It's just a meal." A meal? No, this was my whole world being thrown away. I hung up, my hands shaking, my eyes blurring. The living room was filled with the laughter of Emma and Lucas, building Lego towers, carefree as the summer sky. Looking at them, my heart ached. What had I done to make my parents treat this little family like second fiddle? The next day, Daniel texted, "Mom said you were making a big deal out of it. Why do you always have to be so dramatic?" I chuckled, my fingers swiping across the screen. Drama? Mom kicked my kid out of the house, but your kid was invited. Who's the dramatic one? He didn't reply right away. A minute passed, then he texted back, "My kid is better behaved, Allie. Your kid is a little loud." The words stabbed me like a needle. I closed my eyes, remembering Lucas running around the yard hugging Grandpa, or Emma crooning to Grandma. Loud or full of life, something this family had never appreciated. I threw the phone on the sofa, my mind racing. If they didn't want my son, they didn't want me. I'd spent my life trying to please them. The apologetic calls, the trips to fix their computers, the parties I threw that no one thanked. But now? I looked at Emma and Lucas, my heart pounding. They weren't a burden. They were my everything. And I wasn't going to let anyone, not even my parents, make them feel like they weren't good enough. They'd chosen Daniel. Fine, I had my choice. I sat on the sofa, staring at the dark screen of my phone, my heart heavy as if someone was pressing down on me. After the call with my mother, the day she told me Emma and Lucas were not welcome, I had not picked up the phone, not returned any texts, not a word. I thought cutting things off would make me feel better, but it was like tearing open an old wound. I wanted to believe that my parents would call back, apologize, tell me they were wrong. But they didn't. Instead, a week later, my mother texted, "Allie, you're hurting the family. Why are you so selfish?" I laughed bitterly. Selfish? Me. Then one morning, while I was making coffee, the phone rang. It was Dad. I hesitated, but finally answered. "Allie," he said, his voice low and sharp. "Your mom just got turned down at the grocery store. The credit card isn't working. What did you do?" I frowned, my mind blank. "What card?" He sighed, as if I was slow. "Your card. The one we use to buy things." My heart skipped a beat. My card? It occurred to me a few years ago when Dad had surgery, I'd let them use my credit card to tide them over. I thought they'd stopped using it. They'd never mentioned it. But now? "You still use it?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. Dad mumbled, "Yeah, just the essentials. You have a good job. We thought you wouldn't notice." "Didn't notice?" I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my skin. Not only did they despise my child, but they had been secretly taking money from my pocket all this time. I checked the account immediately. Thousands of dollars, from gas to food, things I never agreed to. I felt betrayed, like a fool for believing in family. I called my dad back, my voice icy. "I just canceled the card. Don't expect me to pay you another cent." He stammered. "Allie, you can't do this to us." I laughed dryly. "What can you do for my son?" I hung up, my heart pounding. The living room was quiet, save for Lucas's singing in the yard. I watched him through the window, his little feet running, his innocent smile. Emma sat beside him, drawing with crayons. They were everything to me. But to my parents, they were nothing. The tension inside me grew like a slow burn. I used to think I owed them, all the years they raised me, all the times I tried to please them. But now I see clearly, I owe them nothing. They chose Daniel, chose his son, chose their comfort over equal love. I remember the evenings I spent fixing their computers, the times I ran over to give them money when they had an emergency. And them? They never asked me if I was tired, never hugged Emma or Lucas without comparing. I stood up, took a deep breath. Enough. I wouldn't let them drag me down anymore. My kids deserved a strong mother, not a sissy. They had betrayed me, but I wouldn't betray Emma and Lucas. This was my line, and I would hold it. Thanksgiving came, but there was no smell of turkey or loud family laughter in my house. Instead, there was only the sizzling of pancakes on the pan, and Emma and Lucas squealing with delight as Liam, my husband, tossed a pancake into the air. I smiled, trying to hold on to the moment, a peaceful day with just us. But then the phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Mom. I wanted to ignore it, but it kept ringing over and over. Liam raised an eyebrow. "What's up?" I sighed and picked up, my voice hard. "What is it, Mom?" "Allie, who do you think you are?" Mom almost shouted, her voice as sharp as a knife. "Your dad's credit card got declined this morning. You canceled it, didn't you?" I stood there, my breath hitching. The anger I'd been holding back for days flared up like wildfire. "Yes," I said, my voice cold. "I canceled it. You have no right to my money." Mom was furious. "We raised you, and this is how you treat us. You're so selfish, Allie." I laughed dryly, feeling like someone had punched me in the chest. Selfish? "Mom, you've been using my credit card for years. Thousands of dollars, gas, food, everything, without asking me. And then you tell me my kid isn't good enough to sit at the table at Thanksgiving. Who's the selfish one?" There was a long pause. I heard my mom breathing hard, as if trying to come up with a defense. "We need him," she finally said, her voice low but still harsh. "You make what you make, and we don't. You owe us." "Owe them?" The words stabbed into me like a rusty knife. I looked out at the kitchen, where Lucas was dancing with flour on his hands, where Emma was drawing stars on napkins. My children, the children they had rejected, were all I had left. And they dared to say I owed them? "No," I whispered. then shouted, "No, I owe you nothing. You chose Daniel, you chose his children, you chose my money over my family. I'm done." Mom stammered, "Allie, you'll regret it. We're your parents." I gripped the phone, my nails digging into my palms. "Not again," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "You're not getting anything from me now. No money, no time, nothing." I hung up before Mom could reply, my heart pounding. Liam stepped forward, placing his hand on my shoulder. "Are you okay?" I nodded, though my eyes were watering. "Fine, it's finally over." I returned to the table and sat down with the kids. Lucas pushed the pancakes toward me, grinning. "Eat, Mom, they're delicious." I smiled, tears streaming down my face. They were right, this was my real Thanksgiving. Not with my parents who only took. With the family I had chosen, Liam, Emma, Lucas. I wiped my tears and picked up the pancakes. They had lost me forever. And for the first time, I felt free. The power was mine now, and I would never give it back. I sat in the living room, Christmas lights twinkling on. The homemade tree Emma and Lucas had decorated with clumsy paper stars. After Thanksgiving, the day I canceled my credit cards and said no to my parents, I thought I was done. But they weren't letting go so easily. My phone lit up with a text from my mom. "Allie, Christmas is about forgiveness. We want you to come, just you and Liam." I laughed dryly, my hands shaking. There it was again. They wanted me, but not my kids. I texted back, "No. If Emma and Lucas aren't welcome, neither am I." I thought that was it. But a few days later, Liam walked in holding an envelope, his face dark. "From your parents," he said, handing it to me. I opened it, and my heart sank. It was a legal letter, demanding restitution for the years they'd raised me, food, clothes, even my childhood tuition. The total, nearly $80,000. I laughed, but tears welled up in my eyes. They wanted more than just the money I'd given them. They wanted to tie me down, to keep me in debt forever. I clutched the letter, my nails digging into the paper. "How do they think I can pay?" Liam shook his head. "This is blackmail, Allie. They're desperate." I nodded, but my anger was burning. Enough. I stood up, grabbed my phone, and called my mother. "Allie," she said, her voice falsely sweet. "You got the letter? We can work it out if you cooperate." "Cooperate?" I gritted my teeth. "It doesn't work out. You sent this to pressure me, but I'm not afraid." Mom's tone changed, cold. "Then we'll take you to court. You can't turn your back on your family." I laughed, the sound dry in the room. "Court? Fine. Explain to the judge how you took my money, disrespected my child, and then demanded payment for being born." I heard her inhale, but I didn't stop. "I'm tearing this up," I said, and did it. The sound of tearing paper rang out, sharp as a knife cutting through the past. "You're done. Don't contact me again." I hung up, my hands shaking, but my heart feeling lighter. Liam pulled me into his arms and whispered, "You did the right thing." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Tearing up the letter wasn't just about refusing the money. It was about tearing up all the years I'd tried to please them. All the times I'd thought I wasn't good enough. The consequences were swift. They didn't sue. Perhaps they knew they had no chance of winning. But I heard from the neighbor that my mother cried to everyone, calling me unfilial. I didn't care anymore. On Christmas Eve, I sat with Emma and Lucas, watching them open their presents. Small ones I'd wrapped myself, not the expensive ones from Mom and Dad like they used to. Lucas hugged me, beaming. "You're the best Santa ever." I held him tight, my heart warming. This was true liberation, not money, not apologies, but the freedom to love my children without judgment. They had lost. And I had won, finally. I sat on the steps, the spring sun shining down, watching Emma and Lucas chase the sparkling balloons in the yard. Their laughter rang out, clear as wind chimes. After Christmas, the night I tore up my parents' letter demanding money, my life had never been easier. No more blaming messages, no more apologies. Liam brought out 2 lemonades, sat next to me, and smiled. "It's peaceful," he said. I nodded, took a sip, and felt the freedom in my every breath. But my parents didn't give up easily. On New Year's Eve, they showed up at the door, with Daniel demanding visitation rights. My mother looked at me, her voice falsely sweet. "We just want the best for the kids, Allie." I laughed dryly, my hands gripping the doorframe. "Good? You used to call them a burden." I stepped forward, my voice cold. "Take me to court. I have all the evidence, the texts, the threats. Let's see who wins." They fell silent, then turned away. There was no more contact. I won, not just freedom, but my real family. But sometimes I wonder, will they come back? Anyway, I'm ready. Thanks for watching my story. If it moved you, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one.